What's going on, guys? I was asked by True Years to do a little tutorial on my last video, so I'm just going to show you guys how I did it. First of all, I'm using a program called Ableton Live. Fairly simple program to use. All of your tracks are right here. You've got MIDI and audio, and when you pull in your VSTs, it's slightly a combination of both, but we'll get into that in a later tutorial. So first way to record is to just click on the circle, which is a record button, and it'll just go. It'll give you a 1-bar lead in if you set it up in your preferences, and you just go. Fairly simple. So now, if I want to, turn off my metronome, maybe come over here, find maybe a nice little bass. That's not gonna work. See, I can just take the audio file, drag it over, maybe crop it. Yep, now we've got so as you can see, fairly easy to start making music. Now, I want to just show you something real quick before we go to another project. If I go to my iTunes here, take any MP3 I want, drag it into an audio file, and the file automatically gets analyzed. It'll tell you what the BPM is, and it'll also lock it to your BPM, to your session BPM. So I can come in here, see, and just go. Now I'm going to take that off, and I just want to listen to it. Turn on the metronome. Sometimes Ableton has a tendency to find one in places that are a little bit further ahead of the actual beginning of the song, which can, you know, make it be off just a little bit. So it's nice to come in here and just adjust it. And then what we have is so that's pretty cool. Now, another thing you can do is you can actually set a loop by turning on the loop, and then you just hit play. Now, say if I wanted to mess with that, I can even crop that, throw that right there. So let's see, warp it as a 1-bar. Now this is the best part. If I set these warp markers, I can actually move this and change the way it sounds. So that's a cool thing that you can do. Now another thing you can do, if I take this right here and send it to slice it to a MIDI track, it'll slice it up and put it in an instrument rack. Now I've got it mapped to my keyboard. So now if I want to come in here, let's pull something from iTunes real quick. There. And now that'll give us our beat, just real quick. So this is how it sounds with just the loop. We're not going to do that. We're actually going to take our loop and we're going to mess with it. But first, I'm just going to compress it a little bit just so we're not overpowering everything else. Just do a little threshold down just a little bit. And there we are. Now I can pretty much make a song out of this if I want to. Put my beat on. So I can basically do whatever I want. So that's how you can chop up audio and actually map it to your keyboard real time very quickly and get your ideas down. So what I brought up here is a project that I was working on for this tutorial. I decided to do the basics first, but I just want to show you, I dragged this audio in. This is what it sounds like.
Listen, high, sister, I'm in love with this song, so just say, baby, shut up, hard enough. How can that?
Okay, so sound familiar, right? I was never a big fan of that song, but the great thing about being a musician is you don't necessarily don't like things. You could just, there are things that you enjoy and things that you change so that you can enjoy. So this is one of those instances. So I've basically taken this audio file right here, assigned these warp markers to it, not necessarily to warp the sound, but necessarily to give us a starting point for the slices that I made. So if you look at the slices, right? So now we have these slices here, and what I can do is I can change them to make a completely different musical idea. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to start my drums. You know. So I can do things like that. So let's see, what did I do with this one right here? Now, how do you go from something like this to something like this? Well, first thing I did was came over here. So first thing you're going to do is you're actually going to come over here. So that's how you get that. But then what I did is I actually went to the track. I did some EQing. There's some chorus on the track. There's also a filter delay. And what that translates to is then after you come up with an idea, let me just do one really quickly. Yeah, there we go. So if I just click on this, turn on my metronome. Hit stop. Now I could have looped that just by hitting the button, but it wasn't fast enough. So I just drag that in, truncate it. Now if I hit play, so now this is a MIDI slice of that audio, and if I want to put it into an audio track, I need to actually just freeze the track, and then I can just drag it over to my audio, and it'll make that into an audio slice. So we just unfreeze that right there. And that's what we get. So I'll just put that down there. Now that we have our basic rhythmic ideas, we've got, turn off my metronome, then we've got our drums. I like to start out with a bass. So come in here. Actually need to, I've got two things grouped up here. I've got my virus going and I've got Omnisphere. Now my virus sounds like this. You know, and then my Omnisphere sounds like this. It's actually clipping a bit. So it's got a lot of delay on it and a couple of effects. So I play those together. Let me just turn everything else off. It sounds like this. I'm actually going to bring that down in my mix a little bit. So now we've got our basic ideas. Now, what the key to a good song is transition. You know, you want to go places with it. You know, I mean, you could be here all day. I mean, that's cool if you're in a club, but if you're listening to it, you know, anywhere else, basically, you're gonna want the song to go somewhere. And so what we do is we put in other musical ideas. You know, and that gives us somewhere to go in the song. And I've got this one. It's a bit longer. Let me just throw that cache in there, see what that sounds like. So as you can see, we're starting to get something significant here. And of course you could always, you know, add some solos. Sound familiar? So basically that's it, you know. You got Ableton, you have all the tools that you need to make a really good remix or an even better song. So that will conclude this one. Stay tuned. I might do some other ones, depending on if anyone asks me to do like effects, signal chaining, anything like that. Whatever I know, you ask me if I know it, I'll try my best to do a tutorial on it. And have a good one. Keep making music.